Eric Draven is riding on a train, and he's looking out the window at the countryside as the train goes on by, and a white mare has run up beside of the train and is keeping up the train, and Eric smiles, and the horse locks eyes with him, and this white, beautiful mare that's almost so innocent and so clean and just so everything right now, is keeping up, not wanting to lose that little connection that they've made with Eric. And all of a sudden, a crow appears beside of Eric, and it tells him, "Look away, don't look." And Eric turns around, and he's like, "Why?" And as he turns back, the horse chasing Eric, wanting to keep up with him, runs into a barbed wire fence, and all of a sudden, it's wrapped in this Jesus chain of barbed wire all around it. And when he turns back around, the crow's sitting there looking at him like, "I told you not to look, boy." And all of a sudden, Death, dressed as a conductor, comes up and says, "Tickets." That's just one scene that is James O'Barr has placed in between the main story of The Crow. And that's actually what I want to do is a proper comic book review. A couple weeks ago, I did a vlog on The Crow and my memories and some of the things that it stirs up and stirs up in other people. Cause this isn't just a comic book. You can put this beside of your other comics on a shelf. It is sequential art. It is telling a story. But it's really, I consider this an actual piece of art because of what it stirs up in you when you read this. Things that have happened in your life, things that have happened to Eric, some of the scenery in here. The fact that the tragedy in James O'Barr's life is what he's putting on the page. James O'Barr, there's an introduction here where it has a quote that I love that, the bare basics of this story is what happens when you have everything you love that makes up your life taken away and you found yourself still breathing. And I just love that. Now, when I did that blog on this, uh, you, that I'm, it's the last video I put up before doing this review. I always wanted to do the Crow review, but the things that it stirs up with me and makes me think about, it was just kind of too big. I couldn't get my thoughts in order. Yet, amazingly enough, I rewatched the vlog this morning before I went to work, and by the time I got in my car, this video was there. I would love to be able to do the video as glorious as it was in my head and stuff, but it was like by talking about the emotions that it stirs and the memories that it stirs and what was going on in that vlog with there, it's like it almost swept everything away, and now I can just look at the comic as it is and actually do a review. Amazing, amazing. All right, so basically the Crow comic book here, right? The tragedy in James O'Barr's life that everybody always wanted to know about, what inspired the Crow that he's always vague about, was basically that James O'Barr grew up in foster homes, and it was rough. And then he graduates from school. I mean, James O'Barr even was failed in art because he didn't want to draw little shapes and shade them and do these things that he considered remedial and ridiculous and insulting and stuff. So he was always a bit of a rebel like that, I guess. What a word. So anyway, he meets this girl in real life, and they're planning on getting married, and she's killed in just something so random and in broad daylight by a drunk driver. She's walking down the sidewalk in broad daylight, and then bam, she's hit. And James O'Barr works on cars at a body shop, goes home, he's in mourning, and he just works on the Crow. This is around, I think he started drawing this around 81, but it would not see any type of print until 89. And I think it was at Caliber Press. And then, the book kind of picked up, and then everybody had to wait almost 2 years or more for the last chapter in this. And by then I think it went to Tundra, and Tundra put out the other books. And, I have those right here. These great books here. And I think the fourth one is actually the only one that has actual new material. So these were just fantastic. Okay. Now the basic concept of The Crow, just to say it flat out, is it's a revenge story. Eric Draven has Shelley, and they're in love, and James O'Barr pulls scenes in there between the story that's going on of memories that the Crow, Eric Draven, is having. And finally, at the end, we get the big memory of how they were living together. They were buying a house. He's remembering how in love they were. He's remembering proposing to her on Christmas, and a lot of other things in here that's all mixed within the story. And all of a sudden, they pull over on the side of the road for some reason on this back road, and a bunch of guys come out. And it's just a brutal scene of them robbing them. Mr. Jones, I'm guessing that's his name. Tom Tom, Top Dollar, Fun Boy, Tintin, T-Bird is the big guy leading it. And what they do is they put Eric on his knees. They make him watch them do terrible things to Shelley. They shoot Eric. His hair catches on fire in the back where the gun was so close. An actual piece of his skull comes out. His iris goes clear. And he hits the ground, yet he can still watch. He's not dead yet. It's like he's in a coma, or something while he's watching this. And that the whole time that he's watching them rape Shelley, even after she's dead, repeatedly and stuff, the crow's telling him to look away, boy, look away. The horse scene with the mayor, the horse scene with the mayor and Eric on the train is one of the first things that O'Barr has put at the beginning of the story, foreshadowing what it comes at the end. Okay, symbolically and stuff. Was Eric on the train to heaven when the crow appeared and Death asked for tickets and Eric refused to give his tickets? It's kind of things that people have read, but I've never heard anybody talk about. And now, the biggest thing about the Crow, since we're going to keep it at at a comic level, is that it's highly inspired by Will Eisner, big time, right? And it's just more specifically the Crow. I mean the spirit. Excuse me, the spirit here, right? Because basically the whole origin of Denny Colt is that he was a criminal, and then he gets killed. Some say, he claims suspended animation, and then he comes back as the spirit to do good. Okay. But this is where James O'Barr raised the bar with this, right? Because basically he also has references to religion and Jesus Christ in this when you think about the resurrection of Christ. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to say. The thing gets deep real good. It goes from this man who was dead, and a year later the Crow brought him back to avenge that death. His whole purpose is to go out and kill them one by one, and that's what he does in this, but it's the execution of what he does. This book is highly inspired by alternative music, The Cure, Joy Division. He has poems in here. He has songs in here that he's taken the lyrics and he's turned it into pure poetry with the way that he has matched some of the lyrics up with what's going on in the panels of what Eric is doing, with things like Raymond Chandler Evening and stuff. Just all sorts of things. It's a piece of art. So it's highly inspired by that. Now when we come to the art that's in this, this is just amazing because the book gets darker as it goes along. James O'Barr's artwork gets more sophisticated, just like his storytelling, to where I can see the Eisner influences that by the time we get to the end of it, James O'Barr has made it his own. He's come into his own. Okay. Now, when I was talking about the music before in the blog and stuff, I mentioned that things that inspired this is, of course, I'm thinking the hair is, inspired by The Cure, but his body. Susie and the Banshees, there was a little bit of goth thing going on when punk kind of died in England and stuff. But Eric Draven's body is based on Iggy Pop's, his muscle tone and features and the lankiness of him and his height and things like that. The makeup that he puts on, Shelley had, these, I can't remember, I think they were related to the Greek theater. It's the three masks, the two or three masks of the theater. And he actually painted himself to look like one of those. So there's like this Greek tragedy influence that he's going for, through the theatrics of The Crow. And it's highly about emotion. So just to kind of give you an idea about the artwork, we have his early artwork that's really misproportioned, real lanky. He's coming into his own. You can tell he's drawn the Crow a whole lot because he's actually the best thing he's drawn, and everything else is sort of plastic looking. Okay, fast forward, and then all of a sudden this is the page where I feel like that if this was cathartic for James O'Barr, I can almost hear him letting out this big sigh, this big breath of like I've done it. This look in his eye like it's finally out. So that's what we get by the end of the story. Just fantastic artwork. And the book gets darker as it goes on, okay, to where he's eventually all the borders and the gutters of all the panels and stuff looks like they're drawn on a black page, okay. So the book gets darker. Yet for the balance in this, what James O'Barr has done is whenever we get these little like Shattered in the Head, when we get these little artistic messages, foreshadowing and symbolic stories, we get, instead of pen and ink, we get ink wash, we get pencils. I think there's a little charcoal in here. So these pages, they're balanced with his memories. When he thinks about Shelley and the memories of her and them being a couple and everything like that, the pages are just white, just bounce off, just fantastic things. Such as this, where he's remembering her. And eventually, he'll go to full pencils and stuff as he goes through there and stuff, right? And the story techniques that he used in this, right? He started, he had a Jesus joke in there where, I was sitting here thinking, is Eric Draven angry at God? And then all of a sudden, there's this little girl named Sherry. She's sitting on a door stoop in the middle of the night in Detroit. She has a black eye. Her mom beats her. And the crow sits down. All of a sudden, you're seeing this tender side of this man that you thought was just a crazy killer who spoke in lyrics of Joy Division and stuff before he would kill people, wanting to know where they were and letting them know there's going to be no mercy and stuff. And then all of a sudden, he sits down beside this little girl. And she tells him his mom is upstairs and he's with Fun Boy, one of the guys that Eric is looking for. And he has gone to Gideon's pawn shop before this and got the ring back that he gave to his lost love when they were getting married. So he gives it to this little girl, and she says that she's upstairs with Fun Boy. So he goes up there, and after seeing that tender moment and giving this little girl who has nothing, who starts crying because nobody's ever gave her anything, he grabs the mom who is on junk and probably morphine, heroin, who knows, and she's sleeping with Fun Boy, who's a morphine addict. And he grabs her, and it does the famous line that everybody knows for the movies and stuff, is that mother is the word for God on the lips of children and stuff. So all of a sudden, you see there's this softer side. So he sends her out. And we get to Fun Boy. Now, Fun Boy is a morphine addict, and I know that James O'Barr had a drug problem. And out of all the characters that's in this story and stuff, I always kind of felt like Fun Boy was James O'Barr. Fun Boy is the most aware of what he is, of what his future is. Yet, this is the one person that the crow lets live so he can kill him later. And the way he kills him later is, I believe, he makes him overdose. And then above him in blood, he writes, "I know why Jesus wept." So the religious stuff is in there. There's a cat. There's a woman that gets shot just out of random, and she's an old lady, and they worry about her cat Gabriel. And all of a sudden, the crow apparently is able to draw cats and, to a certain extent, command them. But you got to read into it. When he sent the little girl's mother out in the hallway and told her to go downstairs, he said, "I'll have friends waiting on you." And there's all these cats walking behind her. Now, the emotions that James O'Barr has the crow showing are really sophisticated, and I'm kind of wondering if this was James O'Barr just putting down how he felt, or if he actually knew how emotions work. Because when the crow is in front of the people that killed him, it's pure anger, pure rage, just pure craziness, the way he talks to them, with some of the lyrics. And then yet when he's by himself and he's remembering Sherry, he's very depressed and he's crying, and he's walking around the house that they lived in, that they just bought before they got married, and he's remembering things, and he's very depressed. For a lot of people, depression is nothing more than anger turned inwards. So when the crow is around the people that he is here to seek revenge on, that anger is being released. When he's by himself and he's not releasing that anger, he's a very melancholy, depressed person, just missing her. And some of the panels and pages in this will just tear your heart out, with what he has. This is the stuff that makes it beautiful. Eric Graven remembering and being on his knees hugging her, and she's actually loving him back and stuff. So, he goes around eventually, and what the Crow does is that after seeing this man be a killer and talk crazy and things, and you're just sort of like, wow, all of a sudden, Crow does not hurt anyone else. When he goes to the pawn shop, Gideon's pawn shop, another religious reference there, a cop shows up, and he tells the cop, I'm not going to kill you, but you might want to get out of the way, and you want to go call the fire department. When he went after Fun Boy and told Sherry's mom to go away, the lady that was talking to the police, who was a neighbor, said that he was walking down the hall with all the Crow was walking down the hall with all these cats after him, and he turns around and he's like, evening, ma'am, and he goes on. So is Eric in control? Is this part of the mysticism? I mean, this is a man that's returned from death a year later and stuff, and you have to read into it. Nothing is, it's all just there in front of you, and you can put it together different ways with what it's stirring up. And then we get to the end. I mean, it's just we get back to the story that is going on, where it's just the Crow going after people. He gets brutal. He gets samurai swords. He gets guns. He starts using morphine. And I've heard people talk over the years about the other supernatural powers that he has. And it goes back to the morphine that he takes from Funboy and what he uses against Funboy. I feel like there's drug use of James O'Barr in there and stuff. And what does morphine do? It kills pain. Well, Eric, sticks it in his neck in part of this, the Crow there. And, is he deadening the pain so he can take the bullets and getting stabbed? Or is he using that to numb the pain of losing Sherry? Shelley, getting confused. It's a lot of things to put in there. So a lot of people are saying that, he's immune to pain and he's got heightened agility and stuff. And I'm sure he does with some of the supernatural stuff. But a lot of the drug use that James O'Barr has put in there and stuff is also, I think, a cathartic thing that could be read. What kind of, we have physical pain and we have violence and things like that. And then he also turns around, and the balance of it is that he talks about the emotional pain and the depression and, having your life taken from you and stuff, love of your life. So that's what I mean, you can balance it out and everything like that. And then once he had a purpose, being with the love of his life, and then when he comes back from the dead, the purpose is to seek revenge. And when he gets his revenge and he has fulfilled everything he thought he was going to do, and along the way touched some people's lives that were there that night, the Crow ends up at the cemetery back with her at Shelley's gravesite. And what a lot of people don't pick up is that in most of the book, it's a rainy night. And, the few trees you might see in this stuff, they have leaves and things like that, but it's not winter. So all of a sudden at the end of the book is now winter. He's in the cemetery and it's covered in snow. And he's sitting down on Sherry's grave and he's talking to her one last time. And now he has, he's still sitting there. So it's been several months at least, for a snow to come in and for winter to be there. So we have some missing time about the Crow, and you can just imagine it's still him. Whatever happened between the night that he finally got everybody, and then what is he doing here? You can put this together. The Crow flies. The Crow knows what he's going to do, is how I'm saying it. He has one last memory, but at the end of it, he's kissing somebody other than who he did all this for. And I think that's death finally back. And he looks down, and remember when you said mine and I said forever? You said only forever, and he says it's forever now. And then we look down and we see the gun, and we have our ending. So it's all about finding that purpose again. And then what do you do after that? What do you do when you're just laying there breathing? I mean, it makes you really think and look around. And the things that James O'Barr has in there makes this readable. The artwork, the symbolism, the imageries that he puts up in there. When you really dissect it and everything like that, there really has never been anything like this. And of course, there's been other Crow miniseries and It's gone from company to company, and we've had the movies and the TV shows and stuff, but nothing has ever topped this. Everything has been a very bad Xerox copy of this, and nothing has had the real inspiration that James O'Barr had this when he was. My term that I use for this, pouring his soul on this paper, when he did this and stuff. So yeah, when you read The Crow, you might want to be prepared to have some things stirred up, which is always good because that's what art is supposed to do.